up, guys? Nowicki here with the very first episode of the KNStrongman Blog. Not done this before, so we're going to give it a go, and just bear with me. Hopefully it turns out okay. Plan I did have until last night was that I was going to talk about motivation, what keeps me motivated, what keeps me striving to get better, to keep competing, and also what keeps me going to get back on the horse and start again after a contest that's not gone to plan, or an injury that's let me out for a while, laid me down. That, as I said, that was a plan till last night. Since then, I actually changed the plan today when I was thinking about what to do with this blog, and I actually recently had people commenting on my Instagram or my Facebook page about how what I'm doing is motivating them and inspiring them. Now I have an athlete that I work with. I program for her. Her name's Keely Moffat. She's actually going to heavyweight women's nationals at the Olympia in coming up to 8 weeks now. And I never knew she was doing this. She actually started writing a blog for Starting Strongman. She wrote, so Cale Beck, he has a site and a Facebook page called Starting Strongman. He asked Keely to start a blog with her prep for nationals, and I never knew she was doing this until last night, where he shared a post by her, and in the headline on Facebook it was all about, she mentioned my name and how I've helped her get better, gain confidence, stay motivated, and become a better athlete through working together. So as I said, the plan was to talk about motivation, and we're still talking about motivation, but a little sidetrack just to start. And for me, it's pretty amazing to actually think that someone finds what I'm doing is inspirational and motivational. For me to actually just go to the gym and lift weights, film it, put it out on social media, and someone to find that as a motivating factor for what they're doing is pretty incredible. For me, I've always watched other strongmen from when I started the sport. I remember seeing Big Z, Marius, Sven, Martin. I remember when Martin Vildar first pulled 400 kilos at, was it 18, 19 years old? I remember when that first video came out, it was unbelievable, and it motivated me so much. Now, I'm not at their level yet. That's my goal, to be able to get to World's Strongest Man. But just to be able to do what I'm doing and that still motivate people is pretty incredible to me, and it very much motivates me as well. Last year, I saw a video by Mark Bell, and it was about how life happens and all these sort of things, and what really defines you and what do you want to define you. And I actually took the audio from that video and I put it to some footage of contests that I competed in, and maybe family pictures and things like that. And I'll share that video again on my Facebook page so you can see it if you've not. And I started I titled it "Who Are You?" I think it was, and then the first image I put in there was a quote, and it was about how I want to inspire people, and I want someone to say, look at me and say that because of me they never give up. And I never, at that point in time, it was like, okay, that would be really cool for that to happen. But it's sort of happened, and it's really motivated me and lit a fire under me for what I'm doing now. And to get back to what motivates me, is a big part of my motivation is sort of proving to people that I can do something that a lot of other people can't. Unfortunately, 6 years ago now, lost my father, and that became a huge motivating factor in what I was doing, in terms of I wanted to make him proud. I wanted to really live up to his expectations of me, and be it in sport, in other sides of work, of life, and be it work and relationships. But at that period in time, sport was the one that really stood out to me, and I really put all my efforts into doing that. And I think that is a big motivating factor for a lot of people too, in terms of, you know, keeping going when it's hard. That's what I always come back to. Like, I can't quit. One, I have to show people what I can do, and also just for myself, I have to prove to myself that no matter how hard it gets, I can get through it, and I can accomplish what I've achieved, what I want to achieve. Now, getting back to the story of, you know, getting back on the horse after injury or after a bad contest. So 2012, I was preparing for UK Strongest Man. 2012 was a great season for me. I took 7th at the Amateur Arnold, qualified for Europe's Strongest Man. I competed at Britain's Strongest Man, won the Body Power Expo back home in Birmingham, won Scotland's Strongest Man again, or won the Britain's Strongest Man, Federation of Scotland's Strongest Man for the first time. I went to Europe's Strongest Man, competed there, went to China, won there, came back, competed in the UK Strongest Man Federation for Scotland's Strongest Man, and took first place there. So, you know, everything was really rolling well and having a great year, and then detached my bicep. Now, I qualified for the Arnold, which was about 6 months later, and it was hard for me because I was like, okay, I've done this injury, I need to get going, and the motivation to recover was the Arnold. So even though it was hard to hold, for me the hardest thing was holding back. It was hard to not want to go in the gym and go crazy, because in my mind, as I have a limited time, we have to keep going and get better for the Arnold. And as time progressed, that happened. The big thing for me was the actual Arnold. I actually missed out on the top 10 by 1 point. And after coming 7th the year before, and then, you know, I thought in my head, I was like, okay, I can make this top 10, I can better that 7th place finish, and to miss out with such a narrow margin was a huge thing for me, and it actually did set me back. It made me question if I was good enough, if this was the right sport. God knows what else, a lot of other questions that came to mind, and it did take me a little bit of time to get back on that horse and get going again. And then, you know, I realised this is what I love to do. If you love what you're doing, that's the biggest motivating factor you can have. Go back on the horse, get going again, qualified. I actually moved to Denver. That was end of 2013, moved to Denver, and then 2014 qualified for nationals, and then went to nationals and took 5th as a heavyweight. And that was another one where I had a pretty good contest the whole time. Press didn't go well, but then everything else I was in 1st and 2nd place, and then screwed up the kegs and dropped to 5th. So that was another one I was like, okay, well, that sort of sucks. Really want to do better there. And then, you know, just sort of I qualified for the Arnold, put that aside, and then decided, okay, go to the Arnold, gotta get top 5 at the Arnold. What happens? Maybe too much pressure on myself, maybe there was some other things going on that I wasn't too happy about, and in my personal life that possibly detracted from my training and my focus. Long story short, I went to Arnold. I believe I took 15th, I think it was, out of 36. I think that's what it was. So to me, that was like, no, that was terrible. It was really, really poor, and another setback. So brings us to where we are now. After the Arnold, I decided that I would do something new, and I think that's a huge motivator. And what if you've had a bad contest, or things keep not going your way, and you're getting disheartened with things, change what you're doing. For me, it was that I decided for the year, instead of, you know, knocking my head against the wall and trying to keep doing what I was doing, I decided to go for lightweight. Decided to diet down, or middleweight. Decided to diet down, try and win a middleweight pro card at nationals this year. So So I started my cut March 11th, 274 pounds. June 12th, I weighed in at 231.0 for Colorado's Strongest Man. Went there the next day, took first place in the middleweight division. So I was like, perfect. I have new focus. And that whole cutting period was hard because my calories were restricted. I could see my strength going down, and that was another thing. I'm like, geez, is this the right thing to do? Am I going to be able to compete properly or whatever? And the best thing I did at that point was then I actually hired a coach. I'd never hired a coach in my life, and hiring a coach was the number one best thing I've done in terms of my now current progress throughout my whole strongman career. Now I can look back at contests and say, okay, I did really well at that contest, or that was a defining moment competing with this guy. Europe's Strongest Man, I competed with Big Z, Thor, Terry, all these big names. That's a defining moment for me in competition wise. But the best thing I've ever done for my progress now is to hire a coach. And I hired I'm sure most people in strongman will know of him. His name is Andrew Triana, and he is an absolute genius. It's by far the best thing I've done. He took me from when we started working together, I weighed 255 pounds, and I was eating maybe 2,000 calories a day, probably under. But then on top of that, every morning I was doing fasted cardio on a fat burner, and if I didn't train weights that night, I would go again and do another session of fasted cardio. So on days I didn't train, I was maybe doing fasted cardio for around 2 hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how I felt. And I was completely killing myself. My strength went to nothing. And then I started working with Andrew. We cut out all the fasted cardio, all the fat burner, everything. He actually started doing my training, and to be honest, I don't understand why I never thought to train like this, or even just train differently than I was before, because now it's the best thing. I progress. The facets of strength I have, I train every facet of strength all at the same time, every single session now. Be it work capacity, explosive strength, all out strength, everything, and it's hard for me to understand why I never had this thought process before. But anyway, now we're qualified for nationals. The goal is to go to nationals in October. The events were just released last night, and that's another thing. To me, now I have the events, that motivates me even more, because now I have them. I can go through them in my head. I can pick little details out, and not everyone does that. I have my brain is a little bit, I guess OCD is the word, that when I won Scotland's Strongest Man in 2012, I actually thought about those events for possibly 3-4 months every single day, and I would lay in bed awake on night. I was working security at this point, so my sleep pattern was sort of screwed up. I would lay in bed at night, not being able to sleep, just constantly thinking about how to minimize any little possible mistake that I could come up against in that contest. And I feel that's one thing that helps me and keeps me motivated, is that I can sit and go through all these little things that actually help me pick apart events and think about, okay, say a sandbag run, and it's perfect, we've got sandbags at nationals again. If I drop a sandbag halfway through, how quickly can I pick that back up? How can I limit the damage to that run as much as possible? And I'll sit and pick all these events apart for months, and I'll do it for nationals, and it's going to motivate me even more, because now I have a game plan almost in my head. So, coming back to motivating factors, and inspiring people is huge. For me, I never actually thought that what I did meant anything to anybody else, apart from close friends. To have people that I've never met before actually commenting and contacting me saying what you're doing is making me work harder, making me start training again, or whatever. It's just really something. Having people by your side that know that you or support you. You know, I mean, friends and family, that's a huge motivating factor. But at the end of the day, I mean, you need, for strongman, you need to have strongman's a funny sport that to be successful you have to have a team, but then at the same time it's very much reliant on yourself. You know, you can have a team to prep you for everything, and I'm very, very lucky with a number of sponsors and people around me that do help me prep hard for these contests and going in the best shape. And then on the flip side, when you're in the game and it's contest day, it's all down to you. So that's the sort of thing that I really, really enjoy, is having, you know, all these people around me that actually put motivation into me, and then on contest day my motivation is to make them proud. I'm probably rambling a little bit here. We're going to cut this short. I literally planned to talk for about 8 minutes and we're at 16 now. As I said, you know, motivation, it's, if you can stay self-motivated or have someone outside of you that motivates you, be it, you know, a high-level athlete, a friend, family member, someone who's not here anymore, you know, even someone just off the street who you've never met before. If you have any of these factors, it's huge to what you can achieve. I guess let's just leave it there. If you have any questions, what I want to make this blog into is more like a Q&A type thing. You know, if you have a question, then please, you know, send it in. You know, I'll put my email address at the end of this video, Facebook page, you know, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. And if you have a question, you know, get in touch and I'll start answering. That's why I want my experiences in the sport to help others. So let's leave it at that. Have a good one.